My name's Brian Heffernan. I'm a member of the taxi charity for military veterans. Last summer, we visited 8 of these veterans of Operation Market Garden, which took place in September 1944. And these are their stories.
I'm Alec John Hall. I was at Arnhem and served with the British 181 Field Ambulance. That's me when I first joined. I was the first person to join the 1st Airborne Division. I was sent to a camp down in southern England, and there was 300 of us there, and I was 18, just 18. At the end of it, the colonel said, right out on the field, which was the marching area, he says, I want volunteers. We are going to, the British Army is going to form an airborne division. Any volunteers, step forward. And I was the first one to do it. We landed at Arnhem. Straight away the Germans attacked us. Our section of 21 went through to a small hotel in Oosterbeek. And I remember there were 3 dead soldiers laid in the garden, and the father, he was the pastor of the British, like the army, and he says, come on, he said, we've got to bury these. We took them over to the wood deck on the opposite side of the road and buried these 3 English people, and I was there. Next thing, because we moved further, the battle got worse at Arnhem, and we moved further down to the 2nd hotel, right on the crossroads. It was the biggest hotel. It was being blown up right left and centre. That's me on the left-hand side. We operated on the left where I was, with the steps up into the kitchen, and that's where Guy Rigby-Jones and myself operated on loads of men, you know. Guy Rigby-Jones had been together. He was the head surgeon of the 181 Field Ambulance. And I was with him for 3 years. And we went everywhere together. At Arnhem we had 2 things, and him and I worked together on them. The one that I can't remember the other one, but this one was 10 people that were blackened. Their bodies were blackened, and they were shocking. And we had 2 new drugs come, penicillin and another one, which nobody else had used. And Guy Rigby-Jones says, right, you're going to treat these 10 men twice a day. And I did that. 3 or 4 days later, I'm down in this cellar with these 10 men, and in trooped the top 10 men of the British Airborne Division. They all went over to the opposite corner, the General, the Brigadiers, that's Guy Rigby-Jones, and 10 of them were there, and they were being offered by the Dutch underground to take them back over the Rhine that night. And Guy Rigby-Jones comes over to me and says, I'm sorry, but I've got to ask you this. If you've got to stay and look after these men, else they're going to die. So it would be nice if you stayed behind and looked after them. And I stayed behind. That night, those 10 top British officers, the Dutch took across the Rhine back to the New Zealand Division. They were across the river. Next morning, as usual, 8 o'clock, the Germans called, roll call. We went down, 10 of us, that's all. And they went absolutely, the poor old brigadier or the German head, he went crackers, which he would do. And we were left there looking after these people that were left. Well, that only lasted 3 days. Then they took the 3 of us and put us on an army train, Red Cross train, and it took us back full up with wounded people, and we went down to Munich, or near Munich, to a prisoner of war camp. And I went in there, but I was the only man in a red beret. There was 3,000 prisoners of war in that camp, and I was the only one with a red beret. All we had was turnips to eat, nothing else. They had a big vat of boiling water that cooked turnips, and we all went up with a tin and got turnips day after day after day. That was it. In the February, about the 25th, we could hear the guns of the Russian army that side and the American tanks on the right-hand side. Then all of a sudden, the Germans disappeared out of the camp that run it and left us. They opened the gates and said, "Go!" And we did. And for 3 weeks, we wandered around the land. It was terrible, nothing to eat. We used to eat the Swedes out the ground, and that's it. Then we got to a place called Memmingen, a little village. I was with another Englishman, but just us two got separated, and we saw a farmhouse up on the top of a hill, and we went up there, and there was 18 Germans with their families in there. So I got outside. I had a stick with a white sheet on it, and we went out. I went out, we went down this hill, and as you got down to the bottom of the hill, there was an American tank. The commander of the tank lifted up his bonnet and he said, "What are you?" I said, "English." "Hooray!" He went like that, because they were just coming into the village, you see, Memmingen. And he said, You're English?" I said, "Yes, I am." "Oh." And he looked at me, and I'd been a prisoner of war in rags, literally. I was in rags. My shoes had gone. They were absolutely ragged. And he looked at me. He went down into his tank, got out his best green uniform and a pair of shoes and gave them to me.